Motley Crue were just completely unhinged. Like, they were absolutely lawless. And people were like, these guys are nuts. Like, they're insane. They're drunk all the time. During this period, they would bite people.
Evening, Jensen.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Feeling all right. Thursday night, almost the weekend.
Yeah.
It's almost the end of March break for the kids, though. Not that that really means anything for me. They were still at camp and daycare, but
good.
Yeah, coming to the end of March break. You remember March breaks? Do you remember the March breaks?
You know, well, yeah. I grew up in Northern Ontario, so there was a lot of
Did you
hockey.
have March breaks when you were younger, Brent? Did they have that? Did those exist?
Yes. The dinosaurs insisted that there was a March break.
Okay, good. See, it's probably a Brontosaurus decision. Those guys,
That's what they needed a break.
Needed a break.
Everybody needs a break.
Right. Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, go on. I rudely interrupted you, but
totally cut my story off.
Yeah, you lived in Northern Ontario. Okay.
No, there was a lot of hockey. Like I remember playing like skating on the outdoor rink a lot in March, and it wasn't super cold, but it was cold enough so that the ice kind of stayed in place. But I remember guys playing with like no shirt on, outside because the sun would be shining and stuff like that. Like it was cold, but you were kind of whipping around on the ice, and you take your jacket off, and then you take your and I remember guys like having no shirt on playing hockey.
Shirts and skins,
That's
right? So they play against each other, shirts and skins.
That's right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like
you see those football fans in like Green Bay and Wisconsin in December and January when it's like minus 20 out, and they think they're so super friggin' cool because they have no shirt on and they're painted green and
right.
You're just like, you're insane. I'm sorry.
And they're not even being active. They're not even playing hockey or football or anything. They just take their clothes off.
No, and they drink. And you know what? Drinking, it doesn't make you warmer. It may make you feel warmer when you first do it, but it actually thins your blood and makes you colder. So it doesn't even, it doesn't even work out that way for you. Anyways.
That's right.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear you had a March break when you were a kid. That's awesome.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm not that old. But, it's just... It was good. Yeah, my dad worked for the school board, so he always had it off too. So it was always a good time with the old man, cool. Hanging out with him during the week. It's when we'd spend do a lot of our vacationing and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was good. Always enjoyed the March break. Anyways, hey, just before we get started here, big shout out to our man, good friend, big fan of the show, Deke. Deke sounds like he had a bit of a health scare, and he posted on Facebook that things were caught and managed right away. So just want to big shout out, Deke. Glad that you're all right, man. And it was great to see you in the chat for the Billy Idol episode so soon after you got things looked at. So. Think of you, man.
Yeah,
be in there. Metal Machine Heart. What is it? Metal Heart. Where did he post? Metal Heart.
Yeah, he's got a Metal Heart. Yeah. He longtime supporter, Deke. Love him, and happy to hear that everything worked out well for him. And Metal Heart, Deke. Keep going, brother.
Absolutely, keep going, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so, just on that note, we're here to talk about Motley Crue.
Metal-ish band.
That's a metal-ish band. Singing about the devil.
Yeah. So I have a lot to say about this record, but before I say a word, I want to know where you stand.
I'm here. I'm a student. I'm here to listen. Though. I don't want to do any talking.
Are you gonna?
So
really? So are you gonna hold on right to the end, or are you gonna tell me now?
No. This was fun. That's what this was. I did. I had a fun time listening. This is, you know, some of this is like really good stuff. Some of this you kind of like, there's so much that surrounds Motley Crue, this craziness, these antics, the drunkenness, the destructiveness, that you're kind of like, you can't take the band seriously. But like, at least their riffs and their choruses were good. You know, I was thinking about Kiss, right? Like, Kiss had some good stuff, but a lot of it kind of sounded the same. And actually, just to that note, who was it? So Eddie was talking with Gene Simmons, and Eddie was like, all your songs just sound the same. You know, it's good stuff, but they all sound the same. And Gene's like, once you get the kids grooving, you know, just keep it. You just got to keep it the same. So you can't let them stop. Where Eddie was like, I like, you know, the peaks and valleys. I like being able to make an album sound different. Whereas Kiss kind of had this approach of, we know what makes the kids move. Let's stick with that, you know? And I feel that with Motley Crue, but in a heavier sense, and in a just a bit more of a more heavy rock way. So I liked it. I liked it more than Kiss. I was kind of worried that I would have this kind of like Kiss like feeling with it, where it's kind of like, ugh. But fun album.
Okay, good. Yeah. No, it is very much Kiss, in terms of mechanics, right? And what I mean by that is that Kiss kind of, you know, was the soundtrack to the look of Kiss, really, right? Music wasn't really, I mean, it was important, but it wasn't like the thing. It was a thing with Kiss, because there was that image and there was everything else that, you know, was Kiss. The music was only one thing. Motley Crue is very much the same way. And, you know, quite honestly, Nikki Sixx, the leader of Motley Crue, was a Kiss devotee, and he will tell you that. Yeah. Motley Crue is the next, you know, it's Kiss 2.0 in essence, the beginnings of it, at least. Okay. It's the next evolution of Kiss. It's the next iteration of Kiss. And that was on purpose.
Face paint, right?
All that stuff, the fire, you know, I don't know if you know this, but like Nikki Sixx used to light his legs on fire. And Mick Mars, the guitar player, used to spit blood during the show. So they, you know, Nikki Sixx in essence, formed Motley Crue as the next iteration of Kiss. Truly did.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, it kind of makes sense. It all kind of makes sense here.
It does. And not just Kiss. I mean, he was a huge Aerosmith fan. He was a huge David Bowie fan, and we'll get into that. There's a lot of Aerosmith and a lot of Bowie on this record. Nikki Sixx was more of an architect than he was a musician. He was a kid who kind of saw the landscape very clearly, and he said, I want to be a rock star, and I know how to do it. I see Kiss. I see David Bowie. I see, you know, Queen. I see Sweet. I see Aerosmith. And I know what I need to do. And he formed a band. He created the band. He pulled people into the band based on who they were and what they could do. And he basically built Motley Crue to be a rock star. He barely could play the bass. So, yeah, there's that. And you know what? We'll get into this, but this was a huge record for Brent Jensen when he was 14. Huge. Yeah. And I'll never forget, Alex, like I have a lot of sentimentality attached to this record. When I was 14, I was at the convenience store and I bought a magazine called Circus Magazine. I don't know if you've heard of these magazines. People who are watching the show are like, yeah, no Circus, no Hip Rider, no Crime, all those magazines. But there were magazines, pre-internet, believe it or not, that's how you found out about music. And you found out, you know, about albums, and you kept up on the news and all that stuff. And so I bought this particular magazine in, I believe it was September of 83. And I was flipping through it, and I seriously can see this in my mind today. This was 1983. So what, 40 years ago. I saw the ad and I thought, oh my God, what is this? It was a picture of all four of the members. And it was an ad for Shout at the Devil. And it was black and red. And there was fire, there was leather, there was blood, there was hair. And I thought, like, this is exactly what I need right now. Like, I need to find this record, and I need to listen to this record, and I hope that I love this record. And I did. And for the next, 2 or 3 years, I was completely invested in Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. I loved this record as a 14-year-old
Was that when
kid.
you were 5? How old were you? 5?
I was 14.
14.
Yeah.
I asked this because Hendrix, 5,
Yeah.
after Shout at the Devil played, he said, put the song back on.
Oh, really?
So,
Like the Shout at the Devil song itself.
Shout at the Devil, the song. Yeah.
Really?
Yep. I could hear that, man. I could see that listening to this. And I was like, man, as a kid listening to this must have been like so great.
It lifted me off the ground. Like
Yeah.
And the thing was, Alex, is that the songs were only one part of it. It was the attitude and the ethos that caught me at the exact right time. It was like this kind of psychosocial thing that happened, that I was at that age where I was just completely ready to give myself to this. I was a small town 14-year-old kid, and I saw what I saw on that page, and I listened to what I listened to with the record, and I just was like, I'm in. I'm completely into this. Like, sign me up, right? And I was obsessed with Motley Crue. Yeah.
It was so kind of like what we were talking about with Iron Maiden, young and impressionable, listening to music like that, looking at the album cover for Number of the Beast. It's like, I shouldn't be listening to this, so I'm going to listen to it. Shout at the Devil, I shouldn't be listening to this, but damn it, I am.
But, it's funny because Iron Maiden had Eddie, and they had a little bit of imagery, but Motley Crue had all the imagery. So when you looked at Iron Maiden, it was a bunch of guys in leather jackets and jeans and high top sneakers and long hair, and that's fine. But when you looked at Motley Crue, it was like 4 action heroes almost. They had big hair. Nicky Six, you couldn't see his eyes because his hair was like here, and he had these things on his face. And Vince Neil looked like this really cool version of Robin Zander from Cheap Trick. They were all dressed in like these awesome costumes, like post kind of apocalyptic. And there was fire, and it was just, whoever was in charge of that whole marketing bit was a genius. Like,
now, what was this? Sorry, so okay, no, they came after Kiss, but did you hear them? Did you hear Kiss before Motley Crue?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, Kiss's high point was like 77, 78. So I was 8 or 9 during that time.
Right. Okay.
Then everything died out. Like the makeup and all the glam kind of went underground for a little bit, and then bands started to pop up. And like the New York Dolls, for example, and Bowie, the glam thing started happening again. But then it kind of went underground again. And it's funny because Motley Crue took a chance and said, you know what, we're going to try and revive this Kiss 2.0 thing. And let's see what happens, right? And people said, Blackie Lawless, who was in a band called London with Nicky Six, and I think he was in New York Dolls for a little bit too, flirted with that. And Nicky Six said, I'm going all in on this, the image with the pentagrams and the fire and the blood. And Blackie Lawless said, it's going to die. The scene's over. Like, you'll never do it. New York Dolls are dead. The whole scene's dead. Don't even try and do it. And Nicky Six said, I'm going to try and do it. And he left and he started Motley Crue, and he did it. And look what happened. Like, it just blew up. They sold like 200,000 records, I think, in the first like month that Shout at the Devil was out, based on that image, the pentagrams, the fire, the blood, the imagery,
the cultish, right? It's occult, whatever, right? That's the whole idea with it.
It was mesmerizing. And again, going back to what I was saying about Kiss and the music being a soundtrack to that image, that's exactly what this was. The music just kind of supported the band's image. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the other band? Sisters? Is that the other one they were in?
The band was called Sister. Blackie was in a band called Sister. I think he started Sister, and I don't know if Six joined that band. I think Six was, but
I thought Six was in that with him.
They were in a band very briefly called London, and that was started by a guy. Damn, I can't remember his name now. He passed away recently.
Okay.
But yeah, Nicky Six joined when he was still, his name was Frank Farana. and I think he joined that band. That was Blackie's band.
Okay.
But then I'll remember the dude's name later. But I think they met in a band named London, and they used to jump from band to band to band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was just some of the stuff that I know I said I wasn't going to read, but I just had to do a little bit of reading. I had to check some things out. And that was it. That was kind of like, yeah, Blackie had said the whole pentagram thing's done, but Nicky was like, can I take it? Can I take the imagery from this album, from what we were doing? He's like, yeah, go for it. Like it's not gonna work out, but.
And then, I mean, Wasp after did this, really used the same thing. Blackie started Wasp, and had that kind of leather and high hair and blood, and fire and all that stuff too. So, like, it just goes to show you that there was still some life in that.
Well, it's a whole scene, and tell me, Guns N' Roses. Where's Guns N' Roses? Did they come after Motley Crue? They were before.
Way later, dude. So
they were way later.
Okay. So Motley Crue broke in '83. And this is really cool for me. Like this is my thing, right? I was 14 when this was going on, and I was watching this take shape. So Motley Crue, Quiet Riot, and Rat, and Dokken, and there were a couple other bands, Black and Blue and stuff like that, were just coming on in LA on what's called the Sunset Strip. So that was like the first wave of what they call like hair metal. The second wave, in essence, was bands like Poison, Warrant, and others. Guns N' Roses came in 1987, but Guns N' Roses were kind of outcasts because they didn't want to, have their hair done up, and they didn't want to wear makeup, and they didn't want to wear, all that stuff. And so they were kind of like urchins, right? They were like these dirty guys. But
living under the street.
Yeah, that's right.
They're a hard case that's tough to beat. Sorry.
But, there's that story about Slash trying out for Poison and stuff like that. And nobody really knows if he, said no or they said no. I think that he probably said no. I don't want to wear makeup. But so Guns N' Roses kind of and bless them because they did their own thing. And they kind of went against the grain and succeeded.
Because obviously we did Appetite for Destruction on the show already. I just couldn't remember what year that came out, because I was listening to this and I was kind of like, yeah, man, like there's some Guns influences from these guys for sure. Or Guns was influenced, I'm sure, in some way from Crue, maybe. It seemed like it.
No.
Felt like there was some of it. No? Felt like some of it.
Funny that you pick up on that, but what you hear is the Aerosmith commonality.
Fair.
So they were both big Aerosmith fans. What you're hearing with Guns was Aerosmith. And Nikki Sixx was also a massive Aerosmith fan. So
speaking of Aerosmith, I brought my scarf with me.
Oh,
I was going to tie this around the microphone.
Steven Tyler, tie it to your microphone. There you go.
Okay, so just give me a second here. I just want to keep it. There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. There we go. See, it's like that.
A little tribute. That's perfect.
There we go. Yeah? You can see that?
Looking
Can't see my mouth? Perfect. Yep. Okay, great. Good. Yeah. There's a little Aerosmith tribute for you there. Huh? You know, cough away, Brent. It's okay. I'll cut
perfect.
It. Anyways, sorry. I'll just give me a second to adjust this. Well, I mean, we can go through songs. I could also just sit here and just listen to you, talk about Crue all night. It's been great.
I don't want to do that. Well, let's go through the songs and I'll throw a couple stories in here and there.
Sure, throw a couple in the beginning.
Funny because when I heard that as a kid, as a 14-year-old, I was like, "Whoa!" Because it's like it's almost it's got a horror movie vibe about it, doesn't it? But what I didn't know, because as a kid I wasn't a Bowie fan, what I found out later was that this is a in my mind anyway, a lift of a song called, an intro called Future Legend on David Bowie's Diamond Dogs record from
okay.
74. It's literally the exact same thing.
Oh,
yeah.
They took it.
So go back. I know we have a joke about go back and listen, but listen to we've done Bowie, but Bowie had a record called Diamond Dogs that came out after Ziggy and Hunky Dory. So listen to, if you care to, listen to Future Legend and listen to In the Beginning. And listeners may not know this, but listen to those two together. It's like a blatant lift. It's so funny. And that's Nikki Sixx. But there's a lot of lists. Motley Crue has lifted so much stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? It's kind of like the way that Kiss Destroyer starts a little bit, right? Just that welcome to the album kind of a thing. Here's a little bit of a thing to start you on your way, and
it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat.
It's very cool. But it's not. See, and people will throw rocks because there are Motley Crue devotees who are like, don't talk shit about Motley Crue.
Yeah.
But they borrowed a lot of stuff. Not just borrowed, lifted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the first of. Anyway.
But it was good. Overall it was like these songs have some fun stuff in them. It's kind of corny, right? It's super super cheese. Heavy metal, but it's cool. Again, I was thinking about this. It's like if I was a kid, if I was a teenager listening to this, yeah, rock and roll, baby.
You nailed it right there. So kudos to you for that insight, because two things that you said. It's cornball metal. But there's a glory about it, right? There's just this abandon where you're like, I don't care.
Well, when you're a teenager, you want it spelled out for you. You don't want to be sitting there trying to decide. Some people do, but if you're into the metal, if you're into this kind of music, you just want them to say, yeah, we're red hot,
exactly.
Or, 10 seconds to love, baby. It's just all these things. You want to it makes sense. You don't want to sit there and be listening to a David Bowie album, trying to figure out what he means by, or, trying to see how you connect with, Starman, or, just that kind of stuff. But
this is not intellectually sophisticated music.
No,
it's not David Bowie. It's not Queen. It's not The Who. And people like Deke are waiting for me to say this. But in my first book, No Sleep Till Celebrate, I do this whole thing on Motley Crue. And the gist of it basically is that Shout at the Devil, which I loved. Top of the show, I talked about how devoted I was to it. When you're a kid, you are afforded the liberty of being stupid. Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil is a stupid album for stupid young people. In verbatim, in my book, No Sleep Till Celebrate.
And that sold 200,000 copies in the first month. Okay, so let's just not forget that.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That means something. You can't ignore that. I used to say that, Shout at the Devil was like my Born to Run. It made me feel great. I have no regrets.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Look at you today, the mountain of alcohol behind you. Just, it's the path. It's exactly the path. The gigantic bottle of Canadian Club over your shoulder. It's just makes sense, man. So, Shout at the Devil. It is what it is. I played it on Guitar Hero a ton. It was great. Actually might even be my least favorite song on the album. To be honest, there's some fun stuff on here.
There's a lot of fun stuff on here.
Show the Devil's cool, but Looks That Kill is a great follow up tune. This was awesome. Again, don't need anything sophisticated. Jeez, God, Looks That Kill. Yeah, damn right. Yeah, I know exactly who he's talking about. He's talking about Mary Thompson, grade 10, that's who I'm thinking about.
Right. And you immerse yourself in that music. Imagine, Alex, again, this music was written for me, right? Yeah. I was their target audience. And I was like in grade 10 or grade 9
Yeah.
at the time thinking about Mary Thompson, right? And, you know, and this was kind of like my soundtrack to my life, you know?
You walk in slow motion in your leather jacket, smoking behind you.
Mullet.
She comes walking down the hallway to you. You just start making out. That's the visual with this, right?
That's
and then
the
you
video.
come to, and then and they're like, Brent, come on, we gotta get the science class. And you're like, oh,
She's
sorry.
drop all my books.
Yeah. That's right. Mary Thompson's staring at you like,
What a loser.
want, loser? Yeah.
What a loser.
What a
Oh
loser.
my God.
The leather jacket's too big for him. Doesn't
This
even
mullet's
fit his arms.
stupid.
Yeah.
That's
until
it.
Years later in college.
Yeah. Now, Looks That Kill. We're talking about Steve Stevens and those riffs. Like, how about the riff to Looks That Kill? Super simple, but oh my God, I challenge you to not react physiologically to that riff and that beat.
So great.
Whether you're tapping your toe or nodding your head or doing your like something, like you're reacting to that song. And I challenge you not to do that when you hear this song.
Nothing thin about the production on this one in comparison to Rebel Yell.
The
this
guitar
is
tone.
Just, this is just, Steve Stevens' guitar is great. But in terms of production, like this just, you feel this. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't feel, I didn't feel a whole lot with Rebel Yell in terms of, you know, instruments hitting me in a way like the tones in this album did. This was, great stuff, man. This is a great riff.
There are points in this song. There's two, my two favorite parts in this. Well, my three. Like when the song starts and you hear that riff, like it's like, oh my God, you get goosebumps right away. But then right before they go into the lead break at like 2 minutes and 9 seconds, Tommy Lee does this crazy drum fill. That's just like the perfect bridge into that. And it's like, he just launches you into the solo and it's like, you feel like he's throwing you in and you're like, oh my God, that is so like magical. And then the lead's done and they play the riff for like 16 bars. And then they go, you know, you hear that and it's like so primal and like, oh my God, this is my band. Like this is my band.
Bastard. Almost kind of sounds like Master of Puppets, but it's Bastard.
Yeah, when you did that, it kind of did. So like Metallica, that's funny.
Yeah.
Judas Priest flavor for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%, man.
But that's what I mean. Like Nikki Sixx knew what he was doing, right? And he knew exactly what he needed to do in formulating Looks That Kill and Bastard and Too Young to Fall in Love. Like he was putting something together to get attention. And Bastard was a Judas Priest nod, in my opinion.
You know, Vince Neil doesn't sound so bad. What's the deal with Vince Neil?
He's a terrible singer.
Is he? Okay.
I will say, and you know, if you don't think so, then I'm sorry, but you don't know what you're talking about. Vince Neil he's a horrible singer. He truly is.
Even on this album, like I feel like it works so well.
He had to record these parts over and over and over again. People have told me that he had a really, really tough time hitting notes. So he had a lot of takes on this record.
Got it.
It sounds fine. I mean, there are songs like Danger and stuff like that where you can hear his voice kind of not quite getting there.
Yeah.
But that's after 16 takes, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was just not
right.
He's not a good singer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not here to say that he's a good singer, but I it was fitting. I thought his voice it fits with the band.
Vince Neil is like Stephen Pearcy from Rat and Michael Stipe from REM. You couldn't imagine the band without that singer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it just fits. It just works.
Hell, even Roth with Van Halen, man. Again, like brought this multiple times too. Not a great singer, but
it works.
Works.
And that's okay. And again, like the feeling, the overall feeling that is emitted as a result of him singing and Tommy bashing on the drums and everything else totally eclipses any lapse in performance. That's the magic behind this record.
God bless the children of the beast, gave him a little chance to give his voice a break, I guess.
He's like sitting in the corner going, oh.
Yeah. You guys take this one. Just gonna give myself a break.
Right. Give me a break.
Yeah,
dude. There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
They used to call cocaine Krell. And
Krell?
They had a lot of code words for dope. And Krell, I think, was their big one. So they snorted a lot of coke. Yeah. Those guys were monsters. I don't know if you know the lore of Motley Crue, but like so here's a little story.
Well, I know he killed somebody, so
well, exactly, right?
Yeah.
On his way to the liquor store, of all places. Yeah. After he was awake for I think 2 or 3 days on a full bender. So
huge bender.
So just an example of like, this is a great story that I'd like to tell about like Motley Crue and how like they were menaces. They truly were. So they were playing the Monster of Rock Festival. There were other bands there. AC/DC was there. Van Halen was there. So Motley Crue, this is 84. Motley Crue were just completely unhinged. Like they were absolutely lawless. And people were like, these guys are nuts. Like they're insane. They're drunk all the time. During this period, they would bite people. So they would bite each other, but they would bite other people. They bit Eddie Van Halen. They bit Angus Young. And those bands said, fuck Motley Crue, get them off this bill. Like we don't want them around. And so the promoter said, we can't because they're hot. Here's what I'm going to do. And this is a true story. In their trailer, they were allowed to go into the trailer, get ready for the show. But the promoter brought in a crane that would lift the trailer several meters off the ground so that they could not leave the trailer while they were getting ready. Just before showtime, the trailer came down on the ground. They went to the stage. No, this is true. They played the show. After the show, they were forced to leave the grounds because nobody wanted them there.
Wow.
That's a true story.
That is... It's unbelievable.
Yep.
Look, there's some safety precautions implied with picking a trailer full of people up off the ground with a crane.
That was the only compromise that could be reached. They were beyond wild.
They also, their manager had to he had to pay a $15,000 deposit to every hotel that they went to. Yeah,
beforehand. Because they got a reputation for throwing stuff out the windows. Like, you heard stories about the Who and like all the throw the TV out the window. Motley Crue knew all those stories, but they wanted to do that like by a factor of like 100, right?
Right. Joe Walsh used to do that too, right? And even with Zeppelin, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, to the point where they killed people. Like Vince Neil killed Razzle Dingley from Hanoi Rocks, and he permanently, injured 2 other people that he hit. They were lawless completely.
Helter Skelter. A little nod to the Beatles here.
Yeah. Do you like it?
That's cool.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good version. I liked it. Yeah.
No, I just knew it was a Beatles song. I'm not really too familiar with the Beatles version of it, so I don't really listen to the Beatles, right?
Show 100.
50th time. Show 100.
Okay,
get us back there. You got what, 29 episodes to route us back to the Beatles.
I've got like that. So here's what we're going to do. I've got like the next like 11 episodes planned out.
Okay, perfect.
So we're going to do a good run through the 80s. So people who are watching this Motley Crue, we're going to go all the way through the 80s.
We're going to go through and tackle all these bands, eh?
We're going to touch on a lot of bands. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it fit well on the album. Helter Skelter. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I liked it.
Nixie Six said something interesting about the Beatles. He said they were kind of wimps, but he was a fan of the White Album and whatever other album they had, or other tunes that they did. He was like, yeah, I like them, but they're wimps.
that's what I mean about Nicky Six. Oftentimes, you know, he contradicted himself quite a lot.
Okay.
And I think that happens in, you know, over the course of your career. When you started in 1991 or 1981 and, you know, you're still around now, you're going to contradict yourself a couple times. But Kiss did the same thing. They say things maybe in the heat of the moment, and there's substances, you know, that factor in and all that stuff. But Nicky Six caught himself quite a number of times by saying things like that the Beatles, I remember reading about that, the Beatles are wimpy. And then I thought, well, I know that he likes the White Album, and I know that he's got an appreciation of Aerosmith and the whole genealogy of music. And so why would he say something like that? But it was just to kind of promote his image as a punk type kind of menace of society kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like he just had that image to keep up.
Well, yeah, that's super interesting. And he was probably, you know, super contradictory when he was not Nicky Six. When somebody else took over for Nicky Six. Is that another part of his life?
Oh, that's a whole other show, Alex. Yeah. That's a whole.
In fact,
show.
Just go watch or listen to Brent's episode. What was the guy's name? Who was it?
His name was Matthew
Tripe.
I'd say Tripe. People say Trippy.
Trip.
People say
Trippy.
Trip. It's TRIPPE.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So the theory basically is that somebody stepped in for Nicky Six, also known as Frank Verana, after he suffered a broken shoulder in a car accident. But anyway, yeah, that's like a whole, like we could go on forever about that, but just listen to the podcast.
Yeah, you've got episodes. You talked with Deke about it. So yeah. Red Hot's kind of cool. Again, super corny, but it's a fun driving tune, and it's a good riff. It's a good tune.
So at this point, it's clear that there are two really good musicians in the band and two not so good musicians in the band, right? So Tommy Lee is a terrific drummer. Like he truly is.
He really is.
Super, super gifted. Like I've always been a huge fan of his. Just, you know, he's a competent drummer. He's a great player, but also a showman, like with the stick spinning and all the flair and like just
chugging a bottle of whiskey upside down as his drum kit spins around. Like, that's insane.
A monster.
Yeah.
The other very capable musician is Mick Mars, the guitar player. And those two guys carry this record, really.
What was Mick Mars? What was he, 75 when they recorded this album?
Funny story, Alex. You know, I think he was either 30 or 31 when they recorded this. He was in a band called White Horse that had already done their whole thing, right? When he was in his 20s, they toured the world, and he'd already had kind of, they were always just kind of like under the radar, though. They never really, you know, had their huge level of success. And he was back in LA, and, you know, he thought his career was over. And Six picked him up, and they started jamming and stuff like that. But at the time, Tommy Lee, who Six also picked up, was only 18. So imagine, Alex, when you're 18 playing in a band with a dude who's 30.
Yeah.
What would that be like?
What's this dinosaur doing here? Huh? Right? Back to the dinosaur talk. Yeah.
Well, and Mick looked, you know, with no disrespect, like a lot older.
Yeah.
You know?
He'd been through a ton of shit already in his 20s that just aged him exponentially.
You know, a lot of people might not know that, you know, Six, again, built this band as an architect, like got these guys specifically, like they put Vince Neil in place because he was kind of like Robin Zander. We talked about that on a previous episode. He recruited Tommy Lee first because Tommy Lee was like this hot drummer who used to break cymbals with his sticks, believe it or not. Like, I don't know how he did it, but he would break a cymbal with a drumstick. He hit them so hard. Like, this guy was like the hottest drummer on the Sunset Strip. He's in a band called Sweet 19. Then it was time to bring a guitar player in. Mick Mars had experience. He knew what he was doing, right? He's a good player. They brought him in. After they got famous, they were on the road with Ozzy. And a couple of the guys approached Ozzy's bass player and said, we kind of want your opinion on something. And he said, what's that? We want to get rid of the guy in our band who's a lot older than we are. We kind of want like a Jakey Lee, Randy Rhoads, kind of Warren DeMartini, like really flashy, young guitar player type guy. Should we like kick Mick Mars out? Like, should we make that switch? And he said, no, don't do that. You're going to upset the chemistry of the band. You're going to screw it up.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. And they didn't. But those bastards wanted to get rid of Mick Mars.
Wow.
That's not cool. You know?
Well,
I don't know.
It's a look thing, right?
I've never liked that. I always thought that was a bit disingenuous. Especially when Mick Mars, like, I don't know if you see, again, like, I'm a huge Motley fan, so we could talk about this for hours. They played Us 83. Mars and Tommy Lee carried the band through that. Vince Neil was awful. Nikki Sixx wasn't great. And then they wanted to ditch this guy. You know?
Yeah.
Not right.
Red Hot falls into Too Young to Fall in Love, which it is another, again, the riff. It's just, this is killer. This guy's great all over this.
This is actually a really well-written song, if you think about it. The chorus particularly. You know, that backing vocal. Too young to fall in love.
Yeah.
And Vince Neil, to his credit, actually does a really good job in this, I think. You know, as a kind of ad-libbing during that chorus, you know, where the guys are singing in the background and he's kind of ad-libbing. I'm too young, much too young. Yeah. It's really cool. It's probably my favorite song on this record, next to Looks That Kill.
Knock 'em dead, kid. Knock 'em dead.
These are good songs. Like, this is funny because side 2 usually is like, you know, the wind down, right? And all the power is on side 1. But like side 2, I've always thought this record has a very strong side 2.
This is a great side 2. Side 2 is the best part of this album, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Like, it's a great string, right? Knock 'em Dead, 10 Seconds to Love. Red Hot before that, Too Young to Fall in Love. Like, yeah. And Danger is fine too, but like, we'll get to those songs. But Knock 'em Dead, Kid is a bit of scrape that Nikki Sixx, I guess, had with the LAPD. And it's credited on the record, actually. If you listen, I was a huge student of like the liner notes, right? Like, I would just like go through, you know, to see who produced the record and what the lyrics were and stuff like that. So I had the cassette. I should have, I used to do
what
the
the hell,
visuals
man?
or bring the
Come
cassettes.
on, yeah, show and tell.
Yeah.
Wait, you got a little comfy over there, huh? You got a little complacent?
I forgot.
Thought you didn't have to. Where's your circus magazine?
Okay, next, I'm gonna next show. I'm gonna bring all this stuff out.
Yeah, right. I gotta bust your balls a bit here in order to make it happen next time. That's fine. I'm okay with that, just as long as I see them. Not your balls, just as long as I see the cassette and the magazines.
All right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Let's keep it PG here, Huard.
Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. So in the liner notes, they credit. I think the song is dedicated to the LAPD. I guess Sixx got into a scrape with like an undercover Hells Angels group or something, and they beat the crap out of him. Like, they broke his cheekbone and gave him a black eye, and he was in jail
they were
for
undercover
a little while.
cops. Yeah.
So
it made it okay. No, it didn't. I just, fun song, cool song. It's a rocking tune. Yeah, and 10 Seconds to Love.
This is
stellar.
A little bit of juvenile filth for everybody, isn't it? Well, really. I mean, when you're 14 and 15 and 16 and you're kind of just you've gone through puberty, and it's like, this is your jam, right? Like, yeah, Vince Neil.
Your jam. But yeah, 10 Seconds to Love. Another, like, you know, fun,
great song.
Sing along,
and see, again, like, all those riffs, like, you know, Knock 'em Dead, Kid, great riff. 10 Seconds to Love, great riff, right?
Yeah.
That was all Mick Mars. He wrote all those riffs. And they weren't just like good riffs. They were like good of the time metal riffs, you know, because like I said, bands like Rat were coming out, and metal was hot. Like metal started to get hot around like late 70s, early 80s. And people started to, again, Six saw the landscape and he's like these metal riffs are like big, right? Van Halen had just graduated from the Sunset Strip onto, you know, tours of stadiums and stuff like that. And like, think of the riffs, like Hang 'em High and, you know, all the riffs from Van Halen 1 and 2, like those staccato, like picking riffs, right? Those Judas Priest kind of hard rock, heavy metal riffs. They were so focused on that stuff.
As you're saying that, you know, like I wonder if Mick had these riffs maybe left over from the previous band, or the previous band didn't want them, or like, I'm you know, I obviously don't know why they broke up or anything, but yeah, I just kind of think like, yeah, if Mars brought these in, he had all that experience, you know, obviously he could make them up on the there as well, playing with them, but I'm just wondering if it was almost like he had these sort of like tucked away, you know, ready to bring out with the right band, or, you know, or if he wanted to use them in the previous band and they were like, nah, that'll never stick, or I don't know. This is a thought.
I would be inclined to say no, because he was a 70s guy, and if you saw pictures of him during that time, like he looked like a 70s dude. Like he looked like he could have been in the Doobie Brothers.
Okay.
Know? Like he was a hippie.
Got it.
And I got the impression that he was not playing kind of knock 'em dead riff. Keep in mind, like Motley Crue had a record before this called Too Fast for Love. And he wrote a song called Live Wire that was like, like it was like this crazy chugging, like staccato metal riff again, right? And they kind of said, like, he was almost a jukebox. They said, like, Mick, like, we're looking for this. You know, and he would always fool around with his tone to make sure his tone was right. He was like a huge student of tone. And I think that he just was a quick study, and he watched the landscape too. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No,
primarily a blues guitar player, though.
Even, you know, the little bit of that precision in his playing comes through in Danger, you know, a little bit of that picking. It's nice.
I actually like that song.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You think it's just kind of a throwaway at the end of the record, but like I actually kind of I like Danger.
Yeah, because it's kind of a different look at them, and it works. This is like Seasons of Wither in a way, a little bit. You know, this is that very much Seasons of Wither type verse tone. Anyways, it does not get anywhere near as good as Seasons of Wither, but it's that like, hey guys, let's try this different. And I think this is to your point about Vince Neil's singing. It was a little, you know, we've used the term grating quite a bit for the show, but
it's a little reedy.
Yeah,
in spots. Yeah,
yeah.
And you know what, Alex? The thing is, like, that's probably the 35th take. Like, I hate to say, but they worked really, really hard with him in the studio, and that's what they got. And you can hear the kind of the squeaks, right?
Yeah,
but
the squeaks, but everything else around them in this, and like it's when again the band comes in, Danger, like it sounds great,
right?
It's really, it's cool.
The production's amazing. Yeah,
it really is. Yeah. So this is about 4.5. It gives us a 4.5. Good.
I like that. Yeah.
Well, I just knock it off for the cheese factor. I knock off the half. It's not like perfect 5 out of 5. You know, it's
take off the half for Vince's vocals.
There you go. Yeah, that too. That too. No, I don't know. It's not like you know, it was fun, but I'm like I can't. It's not like a 5 out of 5, but it's, you know. I mean, fuck. Who cares? Again, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the show where the points don't matter, and you know, whatever. So, yeah. That's all. Yeah, man. It's cool. All right, so we're sticking with it.
I'm glad that you liked it. Special record for me.
I'll be honest, I'm not like, I gotta go listen to their next album. I'm not like rushing to the next Motley Crue album. Right?
And you know what?
But
don't. Because, again, we'll talk about that after.
Okay.
Yeah, don't listen to it.
Don't.
Next, in our journey through the 80s.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Okay, well, this wasn't so bad.
This is like, I'm excited about all these things now because I got like all these records lined up.
Okay.
Okay, so next, Rat, Out of the Cellar.
Rat, Out of the Cellar.
Yeah, we're doing Rat.
Okay, I've heard.
We're going all the way through the 80s now. Oh, this is going to be so good, man.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to make you grow your hair out and wear leather jackets again, aren't I?
A mullet.
That's what's going to happen by
I'm
the
going to
end
grow
of
a mullet.
Grow the mullet.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Great, man. Okay, Rat.
Yeah, Round and Round. You've heard Round and Round, right?
I know Round and Round. Okay, this is Rat. Round and Round. Round and Round.
That's it. Also,
Okay.
there's great songs, like Wanted Man is on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I know Round and Round from rock band, so
Yeah.
I can play Round and Round.
This was my jam, man.
Sweet.
This was my thing when I was 14.
All right. Well, let's see if it sounds any different than Motley Crue. Let's see if all these bands just start sounding the same.
Again, we talk about like nostalgic equity, right? So much nostalgic equity for Brent Jensen, 0 for Alex Huard. So that will be the catalyst, and I love it.
Aside from Round and Round, when I played that on Rock Band 10 years ago.
Oh.
So.
Okay, so Cinderella. Just kidding. We'll stick with Rat.
Rat. Perfect.
Right.
Okay, man. All right. Well, I'll see you round and round.
Here's to the 80s.
Here's to the 80s, man.
There were no times like the 80s.
It's not great, but
you have to enjoy them for what they were.
It's not so bad, I guess.